Hello and welcome back to Art Masters with me, Mrs. Portilla. Today we're going to be doing abstract art by Kandinsky, who is considered the founder of abstract art. As you can see, abstract means unrealistic, although Kandinsky did usually use a theme to his art, so you could kind of get an idea of maybe what he was trying to portray in his art. Now, Kandinsky spent much of his time studying music and color and the effects and the way it made you feel. So by using his lines and his color, he can make you feel a certain way. So today we're going to be using our shapes and lines to make musical instruments. And hopefully these musical instruments are really going to pop with line and color. So let's go ahead and get started on our abstract music pictures by Kandinsky. All right, guys, so to get started with our Kandinsky, we are going to create a frame. So this is going to mask our art. So once we have our finished piece, we're going to have this nice white frame that's going to create a nice contrast for our image. So to do that, we're going to take our construction paper. Let's watch first, and we're going to fold it. Okay, then we're going to take our scissors, and we're going to do like about 1 or 2 fingers. Then you're going to save both pieces. This piece we'll use for a straight edge, and this piece we're going to use to mask our frame. So I'm going to open this up, and this should fit nicely over our paper. And then we are going to tape this down. Great, so let's everybody start with our frame. Go ahead and fold your paper, cut out a nice rectangle, and then let's tape it over our white paper to get our workspace ready. So once we're done with our frame, we're going to take our little inside piece and we want to fold it so then we have a nice strong edge as our straight edge, especially because we might not have cut perfectly. Okay, and we're going to use our pen. But first, let's talk about Kandinsky's lines. He spent much of his time studying the effects of colors, line, and shapes, and he was very inspired by music. So depending on the kind of lines you have, it might remind you of something different. More vigorous, active feeling might be these diagonal lines. Maybe a more calming feeling would be our horizontal lines. So for example, on my newsprint, that's kind of a dynamic, exciting shape. Or maybe just some vertical lines would be a quieter shape. We are going to be doing an abstract musical instrument. So there's 2 ways to do this. We can have one in mind, or we can draw a couple of lines, what we're feeling, and then decide to turn it into a shape. So let me show you some examples. So this person started with our horizontal, or I guess diagonal lines that are parallel, and then they decided to make their shape into a violin using those as strings. This person also started with those lines and then made it into a guitar. These two, we did kind of a vanishing point. And then by adding lines, they turned it into a xylophone or a piano. So I'm going to kind of start with both. My lines are all going to be different lengths to make it exciting and more active. Then I'm going to do another one, and I kind of want a longer straight edge, so I'm going to fold it this way. So vanishing point. I'm going to mark on my mask because I don't want this to be on my paper. So let's say I put a dot here as my vanishing point. So I'm always going to point my straight edge to that point, no matter which direction I'm going. I could stop at any time, depending on how long the line I want, but I'm always going to be pointing my edge at this point. See that? And then, like I said, I can make this any length I want, but it's always pointing at that edge. So go ahead and do a couple of lines using your straight edge. You can have something in mind if you want, or let's just get some lines down and then we can create something. So if you want. Okay, great job, guys. Now if we want, let's add some circles. So I'm going to use my template, and some of the circles I might not complete. Let me show you a little image here. So you see how this circle goes around this triangle point. This circle does not complete. It's going to keep your shapes more interesting by not making it a complete circle. So I am going to put a circle wherever I feel like it. You could do it off to the side. We could do it overlapping. You could just choose not to do a circle. That's totally fine. I'm just giving you guys some options here. So if you want to use your circle template, you can go ahead and use that. If you want to. If you want to add some more horizontal, vertical, or diagonal lines, that's fine. We're just trying to get some dynamic lines going into our abstract shape. Awesome. So Kandinsky used a lot of rhythm or repetition of lines, shapes, or colors. So that's why I tended to put a couple. If I put one circle, I might have put another. If you look at the image you have in class, you might even see some floating circles. You could add a floating circle if you want. If you want to start making yours look like an instrument, the instrument you want, we can do that. So I might look at this one and decide I want this to be a piano. So I would take my straight edge, and depending on how I want the keys, I want to keep the lines different sizes. So one might go all the way down, one might just be in the middle. If you're doing maybe a stringed instrument like a guitar, let's think about our outside shape, like the S curve of the guitar. So kind of look at the lines you have and see how we could make that an instrument. Mine could even be a trumpet if I wanted to make this look more like a trumpet. I think I'm going to make mine a guitar. Okay, so look at your shape. Let's add a couple more interesting lines, but let's try to make it look more like the instrument that we're thinking about. Okay, awesome job. So now we should kind of have an idea of what our instrument is, even though it's abstract. And we can add some more detail lines. So again, if you want to keep it exciting, we could do our zigzag line. Maybe we add a couple of horizontal lines, vertical lines. Kandinsky also liked to crisscross shapes like that. Sometimes he used small shapes, coherent shape. So I'm going to kind of be looking at my instruments and I'm going to make them look more like the instrument, but I'm going to be keeping with these kind of abstract and exciting lines. Or maybe we want to make this guitar look a little bit more like a guitar, give it a handle. The pianos, you could add piano keys. If it's a xylophone, maybe we're just going to add a hint of the instrument stick. So go ahead and think about what your instrument is. Let's keep abstract. We're not trying to make it realistic. We're just adding more exciting lines. Maybe you want to overlap some of these lines. So just watch me on fast forward how I kind of make these come to life. All right, awesome job. So you could see the rhythm of my work and how I used a lot of repetitive shapes. So when I put a couple lines here, I might have added them somewhere else too. Same with here, I have my couple of circles. So I have the repeating shapes, so it kind of balances out. So we want to make sure we have it filled up pretty well with our lines, but we do still have some negative white space. So we're going to start with our regular colored pencils. We want to keep the rhythm of the color. And the way we're going to do that is we choose one color and we repeat it in different places. Kandinsky, look at his work in class. He used very bright and bold colors, maybe some primary colors. And when we use our complementary colors, which means opposite on the color wheel, so blue and orange next to each other will really pop. Green and red next to each other are really going to pop, and purple and yellow. So the opposite colors are going to make things pop. Just something to think about. My guitar might be brown in real life, but that's pretty boring. So I'm going to pick a more exciting color. And when I'm coloring, I'm going to think about coloring the shapes that are closed shapes. So like this would be a closed shape. I would color inside there if I want. These shapes that are kind of open, I might hit those later with a little bit more color, but I'm going to begin coloring the shapes that are closed, and I'm going to begin coloring lightly. So just a reminder about value. When I press very, very lightly, I get a very light color or light value of the color. When I push hard, I get a dark value. So colored pencils, we can't really erase them, so we're going to start light. And then we'll go back in. I want to leave some white shapes, and we could always add more. So let's scale back, and then we could always add more. Okay, awesome job, guys. We should have some color down. And you notice to keep the rhythm going, when I used one color one place, I used it another place. I used red here, I added red there. Now we want to start bringing this to life, because maybe some of these colors are reminding you more of music, or some of the shapes are making it bounce around. If you look at this one, you can see, especially from far, how by adding these thicker black shapes, it's really bouncing around like music. So if you want to take your pen and add maybe one of those black dots, I think I want a black dot here, just to add a little bit more of a bold statement. And since I have a dot there for repetition, I might want to add a dot or two or three here. My piano shape, I really liked some of these triangles. So what I did is I created these shapes and I added a little bit more dark. So I may add a little tiny triangle down here to make it pop. So what you want to do is you want to take your image, maybe hold it away from yourself from a distance, and see where does it need a little more repetition of color. Where do I need to add a little bit of black? And then we'll go in and we'll brighten up some of these colors. All right, now we get to some fun colors. Colored paper chalk. So this chalk is actually much brighter than some of the other chalk pastels we use. So we still want to keep some white space somewhere. Like what this person did, I kind of like. They kept their instrument on the lighter side and filled in the rest of the space with their bright colors. This person kept it very simple and just did a little bit of green. But again, thinking about complementary colors against each other are really going to pop. So just watch kind of how I use it. I would suggest, as always, putting a little bit on your newsprint is always a good idea. But just watch how I go in with my colored paper chalk pastels. All right, excellent. So you guys saw how I grabbed the side of my chalk and I just hit it in a couple of spots, and then I used my tissue to blend. Once you are done with your pastels, we are going to take off our mask and we're going to see what happens. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Our final thing we're going to do, you could be done if you want, is if you want to add a little bit darker in areas, like let's say you want to add a dark outline to your shape. And lastly, we have some fun fluorescent colors These are things we could use maybe for some highlights. So the fluorescent's really gonna pop. When I push down, I get a nice, bright, vibrant color. So we're gonna use these sparingly because we don't want everything to pop. We wanna leave it in certain areas. So to finish our project, you're gonna get your black paper and a piece of colored paper, and we're going to kind of offset the two. But we wanna see the blue or whatever colored paper you get behind it. So you're gonna glue both pieces down, and then you're gonna glue your Kandinsky sticker on the back and put your name on the back. But I'm gonna give you another option as well, because Kandinsky often named his work. You could put here in colored pencil on the front. This is optional. Put your name on the back. If you would like, you can add a title that relates to the theme of your art and your name. An excellent job with your Kandinsky musical instrument. All right, great job today, guys, with your artwork by Kandinsky. If you guys have time to evaluate each other's work, you can evaluate your compositions. Maybe notice how the rhythm of the art goes. Is your eye bouncing from the black or the different colors or the lines? So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. And when you look at them from afar, that things really stop to pop and are exciting. Hope you enjoyed your time doing Kandinsky, and we'll see you next time on Art Masters.